before speaking and before making a motion. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. That is *6 if you are on your phone. Do not click unknown links in the chat that may be shared, as the township does not use this function to disseminate information. The meeting is recorded. Please be respectful for those speaking and do not interrupt. If anyone is disruptive to the point of preventing the board from conducting business, you will get one warning before being removed from the meeting. If there is a problem with the Zoom meeting, the meeting will be reset utilizing the same information. If the meeting is unable to continue due to a technical difficulty or another issue, we will notice the public through Facebook and the website if we have to reschedule due to that problem. And please be patient as we are all learning this new system, and we will attempt to be as deliberative as possible and get through this as a team. If you have any questions from the public about the instructions. Don't think I see any. Okay. All right, we're good to go.
Okay, I saw that there's Abby back. I guess let's call this special meeting of the Township Board to order Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021 at 11 a.m. And I'm hoping that Abby can hear us. I will call the roll. Aldrich?
Here's Allegan County, Saugatuck Township.
Thank you. Bigford? Oh, she's still connecting. I'll come back to her. Helmrich?
Here, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
Marcy?
Here, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
Osmond? Here, Saugatuck Township, Saugatuck City. And Bigford?
Here, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
Okay. I would like to have approval of the agenda. Is there any questions or comments on the agenda? If not, I would take a motion.
This is Aldrich. I move that we approve the agenda of the Strategic Goal Setting Committee. Meeting, whatever. Thank you.
This is Marcy. I'll second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Aldrich?
Yes. Here.
Marcy?
Can we start over?
We're almost done with the hard part.
Okay.
Marcy?
Here. I mean, yes.
Osmond, yes. Helmrich?
Yes.
And Bigford?
Yes.
I'm gonna mute my phone.
Maybe Aldrich should not lead the team here.
Okay, I'd like to open the public comment portion of the meeting. If there are people that would like to address the Township Board, now is the time to speak. Either unmute yourself and make yourself heard, or raise your hand and we will recognize you to speak. Mr. Waskins.
Yes, I had a chance to kind of look over your goals and review the purpose of this meeting, and I applaud the township at many of the things that they're seeking to accomplish and do in the future. My concern is just as a realtor, obviously I'm concerned about housing, and I've been discussing with Bill Rowe, who's on the Planning Commission, about possibilities for affordable housing in the township. Talked about the tiny homes concept and whatnot, that this can happen. One thing that I was approached by another person who's on one of the appeals committees for housing construction, telling me about some of the difficulties they were having with meeting some of the goals of the fire department. Since the township has adopted the International Fire Code and certain restrictions and things that have to happen for construction to take place, to build private homes, it seems that it kind of is at odds with affordable housing in some cases, because the township basically is a rural township. it doesn't have quite the infrastructure that a city would have, where there's sewer and water facilitating, you know, all the lots or the parcels that are in that area. And so it seems that right now what has to happen, like it's happened to I know a young couple who just applied to have a house built, and the fire department was requiring them to bring in city water, and the cost was going to be several $100,000s to be able to bring in that water. Well, obviously that makes that house unaffordable for this young couple to build. So I'm just saying, if the township can keep mindful of that fact, that we can't balance the infrastructure that is needed on a house on just each private home owner, that somehow there has to be a way of approaching policy and ordinances that can make it possible for people to be able to build affordable housing without having to create all the infrastructure around it solely themselves. So just something to keep in mind as far as policy and goals and ordinances in the future, that you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, we're going to make you create all the infrastructure, which is going to add tens of thousands of dollars on the cost of your home construction, but yet we want to have affordable homes in the township. So just something to discuss and think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waskin. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Either raise your hand or make yourself heard. Mr. Donovan.
Thanks, Cindy. Three quick things. One is thank you all for your continued service. I've been in a number of meetings with most of you, and I can see your dedication and your interest. Thank you also for going through this strategic planning exercise. As a taxpayer, a resident of the township, it makes me feel good that you're really trying to focus on what's important and what needs to get done and set up a plan to do that. Secondly, as a member of the board of the Friends of the Blue Star Trail, I thank you for including the trail in your plans and for your continued support of the trail. You know, of course, Cindy and Brenda are on the committee, and we're finally getting some momentum and moving forward, and we need your continued support. You have, I know, some legitimate concerns, and again, I want to assure you that we look forward to working with you to address those concerns. And third, I just want to convey my sense that you shouldn't be afraid of finding ways to generate more revenue for the township. As you've noted, your millage rate is one of the lowest. I was somewhat surprised recently to find out that the newly hired city manager in the city of Saugatuck is going to make approximately twice as much as the manager of the township, even though the township is much bigger and arguably has even more issues to deal with. So I would say is you've got a compelling case to take to the voters as to why there are reasons to generate more revenue, whether it's by raising the millage rate, imposing a new millage, or otherwise. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? I'm not seeing anybody raise your hand. If you have a comment or something that you'd like to address to the township board, please do it now. There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand or making themselves known to make a comment. So we will close this portion of the public comment and move on to new business, our draft strategic action plan and vision report. Joe, did you want to introduce Mr. Nielsen?
All right, there we go. Hello, everybody. So Mr. Nielsen is here. I have shared on the screen also a memo from Griffin, kind of overviewing the action plan. He'll be going over that vision report and the action plan with you, the drafts. And then I will let Mr. Nielsen take it from here.
Good morning, all. Thank you. Thanks for setting up this time and making yourselves available to go through this. There's a couple of opportunities or options that we can consider going through. We could look at the structure of how we arrived at the strategic action plan from all of those visioning exercises and that visioning report. So I want to make sure, one thing, that I got everything right in the vision report. And then two, I want to go through the strategic action plan and see what edits or questions you have. And because it is so massive, it's more than a one-year plan. Perhaps one of the ways to approach that is, you notice it is structured by visions, and then there are goals and actions under each of the visions. Perhaps a way to look at what you wish to accomplish in 2021 would be to go through those and say, this, under this vision, these are the priorities that we want to work on in 2021, and we'll keep all the other ones in mind. So while you've got, 25 to 35 goals and actions there, perhaps you focus on 4 or 5, or maybe the top 1 or 2 in each of the visions that way. So with that in mind, maybe it's not so perceived then to be so hard to achieve or hard to work on. I don't know what your thoughts are in that regard.
I do, I just want to make a comment for, I would agree with Mr. Nielsen about, as you go through it, if selecting a couple of the action and goal items that will assist with the budget and help focusing on our goals for this upcoming fiscal year. And then each year you focus on things or carry something over, be able to take smaller bites of this bigger pie.
Well, let's start with the vision report. So part of the vision report is speaking back, regurgitating back what all of the information from the exercises you provided or you completed, and then getting all of that information together and reporting it back to you. Since we had to do this via email or virtually, we didn't have the opportunity to sit together so you could hear everybody's comments as they were going through the exercises. So this vision report might have surprised you with what some of your colleagues were thinking or some of their comments. But your board is really exceptional. And I say that in recognition that you really seem to function as a team, and you have an awful lot of respect for each other. You respect each other's opinions, even if they may differ than your own, and you understand working together. That isn't always the case with some of the municipalities that I work with. And Joe could probably attest to that, having come from a community that had a lot of, how shall I say, Joe, discourse within that community. But you guys are really at an advantage moving Saugatuck Township forward. You really are, and you really should pat yourselves on the back for that. So I'm hoping the vision report, in reviewing the exercises, I'm hoping I got all of that right and that you're comfortable with that. And then that might lead us to see what you think about the value statements, the vision statements, and the mission statements. So Madam Supervisor, I'm not sure where you want to start with the vision report. Do we need to go through it page by page and see if, raise your hand if there's a comment or a question or an edit or a change that you would like to see on that page?
That sounds like a wise idea. And the page
Okay.
that I have is I have the preface, and then I have page 4 to talk about the mission statement. Or are you looking at something else?
Let's scroll through to what's is on the screen, I think is page 2. Are you on the strategic action plan, Cindy, or on the vision report? I think you're on the strategic action plan.
I am on the strategic action plan. Well, let me look at the vision report, and let's just go through it page by page. And we don't have to linger on stuff that we all agree on, but just kind of let's work through it.
Great. So on the page 2 of the vision report, just has the session overview, who the participants were, and then it starts the review of the prior plan. And I think at your last board meeting, you went through a lot of what's on page 3 through, well, it goes on 3 through pages 5, which had all of the recaps of where you were on the from the last plan. And at your last meeting, Griffin went through that as part of his report, and you all seemed pretty comfortable with that. So I don't know if there's any comments on these. I don't think I got any of those 16 points incorrect. I'm probably more brief than Griffin may have been on some of those. So then that would lead us to page 6. And that's where we started the assessment of current settings and situations and opportunities within the township. And this comes from all of the exercises which you did and provided feedback on. And it was easy for me to see and get a sense for these from those exercises. So I put some down as the overall focus in the township, and those 6-7 bullet points there. And then into the specific questions I had asked you to consider on page 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So I don't know if you had any questions on those. As you noticed, oftentimes a strength can be also a part of a weakness. You know, as I think it was Mr. Waskin spoke earlier, for example, it's a strength that you have the fire codes that you're using. But an impact of that is any new housing must be connected, or it sounds like any new housing must be connected to public water system, which makes it difficult in a township like Saugatuck Township, from east and west side, rural side to more dense development areas. And so throughout that, there are a number of those in all of those bullet points where this could be a strength or an advantage, but there's a flip side to it. You have great location, but for instance, you don't have throughout access to broadband internet capabilities. Some areas do, some areas don't. Your location is terrific for that. It brings people in, but then what's the flip side of those? So a bunch of it is structured that way, which helps lead to the strategic action plan. So I don't know if you had any questions or comments on those, but then we lead to part E, the consensus development. So in response to all of those we could statements that you made, we did that nominal priority ranking of the five of you for which statements you agree with. And that was pretty interesting to see where there is consensus and where there's a broad range of ideas to pursue. And then, so that was on page 14, 15, and 16, with just some summary of what those statements are and what that was telling me that you wish to pursue. So while the area, and I grouped those together, so on page 16, I think it is, you notice that staffing only had two statements related to staffing, but four responses saying, wow, somehow we got to figure out how to add additional staffing. And somehow we have to find out funding or using the millage to add additional full-time professional staff. Same way with township. But back on the housing one, there were more statements under housing on page 15, and the responses were scattered through that. Same with new or expanded services as well. I don't know if you had any comments or questions regarding that. There's also the assessment of whether or not you thought it would be extremely hard to achieve that, a medium degree of difficulty to achieve those statements, or a very low hanging fruit, so to speak. I tried to use that analogy that you walk up to an apple tree and that golden apple is right on a low branch, and as you stick your hand out, it falls right into your hand. That's a low degree of difficulty. Medium, you have to get your ladder out and you step up a couple of steps on the ladder and you reach in. And for the high degree of difficulty, or it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of expertise, takes funding, takes materials to get it. You at the top of that ladder, reaching for that golden apple at the top, and you're on 1 foot balancing, reaching for it. So we end up with some of that assessment. And what that generally says is, okay, if we're going to work on a high or an M, we have more steps to achieve as we look at our goals and our actions within those goals. We have more steps to go through to do that. So then on, yes.
That has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brenda.
Yeah, I thought you did ask for questions or comments.
Yes, I did.
This was a huge stumbling block for me because I have no idea what it would take to do a majority of these things. So my comments or my ratings, HM and L, were just guesses. And I don't know how the rest, maybe the rest of the board has a better handle on what it would take to, to do different things. I mean, I am on the bike trail committee, so I'm getting a picture of what's involved with that. But I don't know how you all feel. I don't know how accurate that is, to be honest. It just was a real stumbling block for me because I have no idea. I don't know how to do the charts, what are they, the REU, and how you assess whether our fees are correct, that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to point that out.
It is difficult, and it is comes back to your assessment of is it going to take a lot of time? Is it going to take a lot of expertise? Do we have money? And it's hard for you to assess all of those things, which is why you work together as a team at doing that. And I listed all of the assessments, the opinions or the assessments of what it might take to do that. Yeah, valid comment, Brenda. So that led me then to your magic wands and what all your best wishes for the township are. That was on page 18. Again, very commendable. And these are some of your gut level responses of all the things you wish for the township and what you might wish to accomplish in your 10 years serving the township. Here they are that you hope to accomplish. From that, then, all of this, I proposed some value statements that you as a township board value with your service and what you value the township is. And that was on page 19. I don't know if you had any corrections or different wordings that you would like to do with those. And then in Appendix B, I structured those on the next page 20. I structured those into all of the preceding pages into vision statements. What you would like to see the township to become, what vision you have for the township. So you have it in collaborations and engagement, your commitment to excellence, your parks and nature, your financial stability, and growth and development. Those are the 5 vision areas that I came up with. I don't know if you wish to visit each one of those and talk about each one of those, or if you had any changes in the wording of those or questions about any of those or not. Great.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I see a hand again.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, it's me. So are you anticipating that we actually adopt these today?
Not today, but at
Okay, I'd like to spend more time, you know, when it comes to vision and mission on them. I mean, I don't know if you've planned on spending a block of time today on them.
would certainly love to do that today. So then I can work on the edits in this so that at your meeting on, I think it's the 10th,
Right.
then perhaps by then I'll have all of, I'll have all the edits done relatively soon. And so your meeting on the 10th is when you can consider receiving the vision report and then acting on or adopting the strategic action plan. Okay. So yes, if you're planning on adopting that on the 10th, let me know if you want changes in those vision statements, value statements, and then the missions.
Okay.
The mission statements, it appeared that I'm not sure what status your mission statement is at currently for the township. Got a couple of mixed signals in the exercises about a mission statement, to whether one had been completed or not for the township. So if you already have one, I was not aware of it and I couldn't find it online. So I proposed that one as a starting. So hopefully you had a chance to take a look at it. This would be one that you really need to own and you really need to buy into. And then the second one was just more of a mission statement for how you as a board wish to pursue your task and how you see what your mission in serving the township is. Some municipalities have both of those. Some only have one. Some generally have the township mission statement and not the board mission statement. So yes, we ought to spend some time looking at those, and we certainly can do that today. I don't know if any of you have already made any edits to any of those or not, as you read through them.
This is Bigford.
Hi, Abby.
Hi, Larry. How common is it or standard for townships to have a mission statement? Is it pretty standard? Like, I mean, like, yes, okay.
Yes, it is pretty standard, especially those townships similar to yourself that are looking forward and looking ahead. And you'll not necessarily find as many really rural townships having those, but with a township as diverse as yours, yes, yeah, you'll see more and more of them that way across the country having those.
So a second question, Larry, the vision and the values, I think there's so much worth to those, and it really captures, it gives us a real starting point and its structure for kind of making some actual action steps and prioritizing our goals and such. But do we, I guess, is there any disadvantages to adopting something like that? Could we just have that was just part of this process and that's stuff that we identified, but do we have to adopt that? I just don't want box us in, I guess. I just am careful to only document what you know you're going to do for sure. Otherwise you can kind of set yourself up for failure or criticism. Does that make sense? Am I kind of?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and you can have them as a resource rather than an official policy of that as well. What we would do in that regard would be to take them out of the strategic action plan and just have them as an appendix into the strategic action plan. So you're adopting the plan and here are resources listed with that. With the value statements, you certainly don't want to have items on your agenda or considerations that would go against any of those. Right. Same with the visions and the mission statement as well. But yeah, they could be listed as a resource. The mission statement, however, if you have one, you should adopt that as the mission for the township. And the board one, you can keep that as a resource as well.
Thank you, Larry. That's helpful.
In other communities I've worked in, when they've adopted the mission statement, it's more, they utilize it as a beacon on how this is where we want to see our community. So everything we do is try to be this, what our mission is. It's very general and kind of gives you a little bit of guide rails for everything that you do.
So let me ask, is it the consensus that you would wish to have the value statements as a resource rather than an adopted statements?
I'd feel more comfortable with that. And like I said, I think they are very important. They help us, stay on track with what's really important and what we've all identified. And I think we should carry those over into next year when we do this strategic planning again. But I would feel more comfortable if it was a resource.
Okay. I see another head in agreement with you. That's 2 of the 5, 3 of the 5. Very good. We will list it that way then. That'll be terrific. Anything on the mission statement you want to take a look at this time? Or do you want to look at it when we get to the strategic action plan?
I think we could do that with a strategic action plan.
Okay. Move my papers around here and keep my notes going. So in the strategic action plan, you see the value statements, vision statements, and the mission statements. So let's jump back to page 4, where Cindy wanted to start. She was ahead of me.
I'm often out of order, so.
Oh, you were laser focused on that. do you have the suggestions for the wording of that?
I like the township mission statement. The highest quality of services within the constraints of the fiscally responsible government. That makes sense to me.
It
I
was,
don't know if anybody else has a comment.
it was very clear throughout all of the exercises that the fiscal responsibilities that you all felt and that you all had for the township and all of its businesses and residents was critical. And that led to how you manage the public funds and how you recognize the need for your budgeting issues that you really have. And I think it was Mr. Donovan who spoke in the pre-meeting comments about you got to have a tax base to be able to achieve a lot of things. And without a tax base or tax levies, I should say, you're just going to be unable to achieve things. So you're in a good position with having a low tax base, having the opportunity to consider millages, special voted millages or operating millages to be even to enable yourselves to accomplish more for the township and the residents and what the township and the residents are wanting you to accomplish. The sell and the task at convincing people of that is always a challenge.
Nice.
At your last meeting, Joe, you talked about dispersing tax funds. You were going to send off, I forget how much it was, a little over $1 million to different tax entities from funds that you collected. Is that correct?
I think that was me.
That was John.
Yes, John.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's-
John, not
that's
Joe.
part of
I'm
my
sorry.
job.
Yeah, that was John who said that as part of his treasurer's report.
Yeah.
Well, there's a great opportunity. You know, each time you have those in your approving of bills and treasurer's reports, keep reminding people that we're going to send this off because it's the school millages that are at X, and it's the fire department that is, we collect it, but we got to send it. We collect it, but we got to send it to the county. We collect it, but we got to send it to 911. We're collecting it, but we got to, and boom, 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 so that out of each dollar that you are paying as a taxpayer, the township is getting 1.5 cents, or whatever it comes out to be, 12.5 cents. It's one of those, because that'll help in the discussions of what you want to do with the with your millage rates, whether it's a specially voted millage, whether it's looking at waste and recycling services, whether you want to contract a single provider or do it as a township service, or just put an ordinance together to allow anybody and everybody to do it, but they
Brenda
must
has a
provide.
question, Larry.
Yeah, back to the
Mission statement? Yeah, I'm
Yes.
getting ahead. Sorry,
yeah,
Brenda.
okay. When I first read this, the township mission statement, when I see Saugatuck Township, I see the whole township. And so the township itself is not providing the highest quality of services. Personally, I think that's really either the Board of Trustees statement, or we should have one statement. Do you know what I mean? I'm seeing when you say township, so my neighbor's mission is to provide the highest quality of services. I don't know, the Board of Trustees mission statement, I would make that first one, the Board of Trustees mission statement, and it covers everything in the second statement. Or you could have visionary leadership, but the first one, it's like, to me, the township is the township, not us, is the whole entire township.
So
It
what,
might be semantics, but that's just how I read it.
so what I hear you saying, Brenda, is it should say for the township mission statement should say, it is the mission of the Board of Saugatuck Township to provide the highest quality of services within the constraints of fiscally responsible government.
Yeah, do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
It is kind of a confusing statement. Yes, and you could combine these two and make one great one. I think, and I know with mission statements, you never want them long. I know how that works. So you want it as short and concise and powerful as you can make it.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
John had a
that's what
question.
huh?
John has a question.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a great point, Brenda. I just want to throw this out because it strikes me, I love the whole constraints of fiscally responsible government because we're very dedicated to that, but it reads a little dry to me just leaving it there. And I don't have a wording to share today, but I'm just thinking that after we say that, if we could add language perhaps to say, while fostering a high quality of life for the residents and encouraging strong economic development. And like I said, that's rough, but I just am wondering if we could add something, and I'm happy to actually wordsmith this after the meeting, but so that it's not just the fiscally conservative that's in there, because yes, that is so vital to everything we do, and especially at the board level and staff level. But I'd like to see a little broader, and to Brent's point, shouldn't be too long, but I'm just throwing that out, that to me, it feels like it's missing. It's not just providing services, it's fostering, comfortable, protections and environment for the people that live here. So which could, that brings us into that sort of covers housing and those thoughtful things while encouraging other economic development.
I think you could just add, this is Marcy, after fiscally responsible government, using visionary leadership and policy making. And then if you wanted to add something about the quality of life, to enhance the quality of life or something like that. But I think that you could do that very easily.
Yeah.
I really like the visionary leadership in policy making. And that's a little different than the fiscally responsible, but it's a good balance to have, I think. So you don't have to add a lot, but I think you could just add, a little tweak here and there.
It is your statement, and you need to understand it and support it and fight for it as you continue all of your activities. I like John's suggestion about let's wordsmith this a bit. I'll circulate some wordings from what I hear. You can do the same. I'll send it to you guys, and between now and the 10th, you can agree on what that will be. Let me know what that is, and I will insert it then into the strategic action plan. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That sounds great.
Terrific. All right. Okay. And on page 5, those will be as a resource, not as something to adopt. Did I catch that correctly?
Yep.
Okay, good. And then we're to those vision statements and the strategic action plan, and how how the strategic action plan is structured to the visions. Got my screen up to my right here that you can't see, but that's why I'm looking that way occasionally. And I'm making notes in the document as well as on paper, so I don't forget anything. So are we comfortable with the structure of goals by visions? I assumed we were, because we indicated that when we were talking about the vision report. So let's take a look at the first vision, your commitment to excellence. And an excellent service that you all wanted to get into was the waste recycling efforts. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. Yes, Cindy.
There, you may not know this, but there is a tri-community recycling committee that is working on exactly that right now.
Okay.
And they have made some progress. And that includes Daniel DeFranco from the Planning Commission and Garnet Lewis from the City of Saugatuck. And I can't remember who's representing Douglas, but they have made quite a bit of progress on that.
Oh, good.
They've moved to extend their committee time for another year. So.
Oh.
Yeah, just to that point, at our last board meeting, we voted to extend participation for another year. We actually have 3 appointed representatives from the township on this committee. All 3 communities have 3 representatives.
Excellent. So does this needs a drastic rewording then, or could it be, it's an ongoing effort? It sounds like.
This is Brenda again. I think this is the most I've talked in any meeting. Okay, so like mission, vision. So these vision statements, are they just to inform the goals we want to set? Or is it something we're going to publish? Because it's you want one mission statement, vision statement, not unlike your mission statement. So I'll just give you an example. This is Hampton County in South Carolina. As one of the most progressive small counties in the state, Hampton County seeks to uphold its vibrant economy, quality of life, and sense of community pride. But if you list 5 vision statements, you'll lose people. I mean, if this is something we're going to publish and we're going to say this is our vision statement, which, as you can tell, is slightly different than the mission. I don't think you want 5 vision statements. You can use that to inform the goals, but to me, that's not a vision statement. And I only say this because I spent so much time at a huge college that had 30,000 students trying to form a mission and vision statement. So anyway, that's my input on that.
I do have a comment.
I have to agree with Brenda.
Just a thought, if I may, to the board. When I went over your last priority list, you called what I would assume what Larry is here a priority, like priority 1, priority 2.
Yeah.
And so I think this, instead of using the word vision, using the word priority might be a better term.
Okay.
Yeah.
The priority 1, commitment to excellence.
Right.
This is how these are our top priorities, and then each priority has a goal and then a measurement for that goal, for then we can then move forward.
Yeah.
And show we are completing that priority by these goals.
I like that.
Great.
So of the goals listed in priority vision statement number 1, I think that a couple of them jump out at me as most highest priority, or like I said, the recycling's already in the process, but increase the professional staff at Township Hall would increase capacity for us to be able to accomplish our goals. So that really would be my first priority. And my second one would be the Township Hall renovations, to reorganize the office space, to allow for people to work with the tools they need, space they need, and the comfort they need to be able to complete projects and not be interrupted all the time. I think that it would help with John getting his treasurer's report complete and accurate if he's not interrupted every 10 minutes. I think it would help provide Joel with the office space that he needs to be able to conduct business in a confidential manner in some situations. And it would just make the office work more efficiently to accomplish the goals. And then the next one was increase the safety in the township and figure out how and what it would take to put a stoplight at Blue Star Highway in Old Allegan. That would increase the safety, not only in the township where the school is, but it would break up traffic as it approaches Lake Street and slow down the traffic and perhaps eliminate the need for that special turn lane to get out onto. And I just think those out of those goals, of the number one goals, those are my 3 top priorities.
Anybody else? So for the priority area, commitment to excellence, I'll restructure those so that 1.2 is 1.1 and 1.3 becomes 1.2 and 1.4 becomes 1.3. Of those,
Abby, do you want to add anything to that or change what my opinion was? I know we haven't had a lot of time to interact with one another while we're doing this project, so.
I can totally get behind your suggestions. And I think we can even change 1.1 to, we will consider the findings or the recommendations of that advisory committee, the recycling committee, and keep that in there because I think it's a really, we've all identified it as being very important, but it'll hopefully just take less work for us since they're doing most of it. The stoplight is tricky for me because I think it's a huge expense. I think it can be really, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't be looking into it and maybe looking at, maybe we can't have it now, but if we start planning for it, we could have it in 3 years or something.
Yeah, I was thinking just really to explore the issue and find out what it would take and who's going to pay for it. Is it going to be the township's expense? Is it going to be a county expense? Just to dig into it a little bit, and it goes quite a bit, goes along well with the Blue Star Trail development.
Okay.
If I might, from my experience in working on interchanges on a state trunk line and county roads, the cost, you know, you can the cost was always factored as to what the state MDOT would be paying, what the county would be paying, and what the township or the village would be paying. So there was a portion of those, and then it was allocated for the maintenance of that interchange as well. So I'm not sure that, you know, the worst case scenario is that you would have to pay for everything. They would probably work with the township to get a MDOT grant for that funding of smart interchanges, lighting, stop lighting and stuff like that. So I'm just not sure how, at this point, if you've had any discussion with MDOT and the county related to the costs or not, but it may not be as daunting as you think it might be. Yes, Stacy?
Well, I know we did a traffic study at that corner last year, the county did, and you know, whenever they do these traffic studies, they say that we don't, you know, it doesn't qualify to have a stoplight there. But if there's one thing I hear from residents, it's Blue Star, how dangerous it is. And I think we have to go ahead regardless of what help we get from other resources. We just have to do this. It's over and over and over again. Residents call me whenever there's an accident, and I think it should be our highest priority, honestly. So, and I know that Dave Eiley's leading a group about Blue Star, and I think it's gonna incorporate that a little
Okay.
bit into it, so, but that's my 2 cents.
Great. That's fine. I can, are there any of, Cindy, are you indicating if, for the goals for 2021, that your 3 top priorities would be goals for 2021 to pursue? And is that what other people are suggesting as well? Because I can tag those goals and actions, for 2021 as well. So it sounds like to me that those 3 would be 2021 and the others may not be 2021, but there. Is that what you're indicating, Cindy?
Well, I think, and I don't have it in front of me right now because I'm not at home, I'm in my office and I have to look at my computer screen on the other side. So that's why I keep turning around. But I think that the professional staff is something that we had on our last set of goals and objectives as well. So it's a carryover and it should carry over into 2021.
Good.
And the township hall renovations as well was on the 20 plan, but that's just my recollection. And like I said, I don't have it in front of me.
Sure.
So maybe somebody does.
And just a quick thought that I would like to give to the board is as you go through it, my recommendation is approve the goals and then possibly separately part of the whole budget process, identify which goal and action that you would like to see in that particular year, and then use that as a, this is overall what we're doing and we're getting to, because some things might get paused because you might have to work with a county or some other entity.
Right.
Sure.
So we don't want when the public sees you have a date on it, they expect it to be done. And this allows the board to have a little bit more flexibility if during the budget process period is when you set that policy about which goals we're looking at this year. And then during the reporting, this is the progress that you get during a budget report. By the way, this is what's going on. Here's a current update on our priority list and moving forward. And then,
That makes sense, Joe.
And Cindy, it was number 10. Upgrading facilities was goal number 10 on our last one.
Of 2020.
Yes.
So that's kind of a carryover, and I think it's kind of rising to the top of my list because
Yes, I agree.
You can't work efficiently if your space is not efficient, and you can't accomplish your goals if you can't get your job done.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move to the next priority area. Maybe we should call them priority areas rather than priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, because that might imply that priority 1 has more importance than priority 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So if we just call them priority areas, then there's no distinction that the one is more important than the other. They're all important. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Priority area then, collaboration and engagement. That was on pages 10, 11, and 12, I think.
Just 10 and 11.
10 and 11, right.
I guess I can go ahead and start that one. The ones that I felt were most highest priority, in my opinion, were increased citizen knowledge of township taxes and finance. And then the second one was survey residents on expected and desired services. I know the desired services are different on the southeast part of the township than the part on the lake shore. So we need a way to engage everybody in this and just hear what people have to say and what do they want.
I agree. And we are working, I think we're doing a great job on collaborations. And then the open house and meet and greet, based on what I've heard from 2 scientists recently, it's gonna be a very, very, very long time. So I'm not even sure that should be on there at this point.
What's
So
the,
It won't be in person.
John has a comment he wants to make.
I agree with that last point, Brenda, and I don't think that many people would come. But
Right.
I think number one for me is the collaborations, because we've done so much on that, but I think that should always be at the forefront of our priority plan. And then my second favorite is the survey, because something that I've spoken to the board about this, but we're undergoing a tremendous influx of new residents. The number of properties that are transferred, ownership change it's the highest it's ever been in the time I've been involved with this. And a lot of these people, maybe the majority, are moving in from definitely outside the tri-community area. Many are coming from Chicago. They're fleeing the big cities, and we need to balance that. They come with a set of expectations. I spent a lot of time, to the point that you made earlier, Larry, explaining to people that, no, we don't do yard waste removal. No, we don't pick up Christmas trees like the 2 cities do. We also have the lowest tax millage in Allegan County.
there you go.
And we need to balance that. And I think a survey would just be incredibly helpful. And I've been doing some research on, the costs and how we might do that, if it's through the tax base or what. It goes back to, I know the recycling committee is struggling with this too right now, because the fact that Saugatuck Township is served by 3 different post offices. We have 3 different zip codes, and it's hard if you blanket all of them, then you're sending your survey to everyone in the city. So that's a challenge for any kind of survey work. But I think I just wanted to say that about that I think a survey would be so helpful, because
I agree.
We don't know what the priorities are, and they're going to be varied, and we have to balance that.
Other thoughts?
I agree. I think the survey is very important.
Would you put it as number 1 or number 2, Brenda?
I wouldn't make it number 1, I don't think. I suppose it could, because you increase citizen now. I don't know, actually. It doesn't really matter to me whether it would be number 1 or number 2. Anybody else? Abby, Stacy?
They actually probably could be combined into one.
Yeah.
document That would say, here's how your tax money is being spent, and so much is going to the schools, and so much to the library, and so much to the interurban. And we want to know where the township residents stand on what services they're expecting.
Smart. I like it.
Yep.
Got it.
I like it too.
So that the combination would be number 1.
Yes, that's good.
I think that makes sense.
And then have the collaboration strengthened and maintained could be the next one, and we'll X the open house.
Yeah.
For this year.
Sounds good. All right. Great work. All right, let's take a look at the priority area parks and nature.
Brenda,
Yes.
as Larry mentioned, that this might be a multiple year plan.
Right.
Would you, just for the board to consider, is to keep having that open house. If one of your goals is to continue having an open atmosphere with surveys and getting out information to people, keeping the open meeting, it just might not be in 2021, but it's a priority for the community to still have them. It just might be 2022.
It might be.
This is a suggestion for the board.
It might be a tool to accomplish the other things, rather than a separate item by itself.
Yeah, and I don't want to do anything to create the impression that we're anti-maskers or that we want to gather in public. So I don't know how you would do that. Or you could say this is maybe you could add if possible in 21 given COVID. I don't know. I think you'd have to put something else in there to leave that in. That's my, don't you think so, Joe?
Maybe it's,
Maybe it's more of a long-term goal that we can't accomplish this year, but we want to strive toward it in the future.
maybe it's from an outside viewpoint.
Mhm.
With having such a very longer in-depth vision and strategic action plan, it might take a couple years. It might,
Mhm.
like how we just did our master plan review, do a review of this every year
Right.
and say, okay, we're making progress on this. We don't need to reinvent the wheel and do another action plan. We'll just review it. So instead of next year going through the exercise again, well, we don't need to go through the exercise because we've already done it and we're continuously making progress. That's how I see it. But if the board wants to do a new one every year, well, that's up to the board. But my
No,
recommendation
I agree. Yeah, go ahead.
this as a long-term template for the next 4 years. And then, well, if we checked everything off in 2, well, of course, the recommendation is let's do it again. And we'll figure out what.
You reminded me that when I first looked at this, I thought, no, we can't do all this in 1 year. But I think that's right. Couldn't we call it a 3-year plan or something like that, like we do with the master plan? I don't know. That's a great idea, Joe. There's a lot in here, and we're already working on a lot. So.
And if it is a multi-year 2 or 3 year plan, you're going to review it every year, and you'll have urgent and timely stuff you'll add each year, or take things out as they're accomplished each year. So, it can easily be a 2 or 3 year plan.
In that case, we could leave it in to structure it. How do you feel? Everyone else?
This is Bigford. So would that change what we the plan that we embarked on in the beginning of this meeting to not take all of the goals and action steps, but just take the top 1, 2, 3 in each priority area?
I think we could do that for year 1. Do you think?
Good.
I think it's more measurable, and it will give our manager better direction. If we say these are the most important things that we want the attention to be spent on starting in 2021, and then those other ones will still be there. And when we come back a year from now to this exercise, we can look at those.
Just to give a comment, Abby, for working in other communities, it's for the management, it's really good to have a big picture of where the community wants to see itself, so that you can pivot if you have downtime. There's never really downtime, but you can, that project.
Downtime?
Yeah, I know Larry is probably laughing too, but there's not really a downtime, but there's always something got held up, so I can work a little bit on this project. And then every year, so my recommendation is once you have settled on all your priorities and all your goals, you adopt it, and then every year, which is a part of the budget process, you pick which priorities in that particular year. As the board, I want to see 2.1, 1.4, and 3.6 all to be the main focus this year. And then we'll start doing chunks going forward. And then that gives the manager, all right, this is what exactly we're working on, but work on this other stuff if something gets stalled, and update us on the current status of these ones and if anything happens with these ones. That way you can allocate funding, and it makes a little bit more direction, but still flexible. I hope that answers some of your questions. Abby?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, I like that too.
Okay. Ready to move on to priority area 3?
Parks and trails. I have a pretty good inventory of parks and trails in the tri-community that shows all the different parks and trails that are available to our residents, not just the ones that are in the township, but the parks and recreation capacity in the 2 cities as well. And I'd be happy to share that. I did share it with Joe. It's a nice comprehensive area that you can look at and say, these are the parks available to our citizens, not just in the township. So.
Cindy,
And 3.3, I think is done. We're
Almost,
almost done.
not quite.
Yeah.
So we can take that one out?
I think we're gonna vote on it next week.
All right. And leave the other 2 as is, and note that there is the inventory available that can be promoted to all residents, whether the asset is in or outside the township. Great.
And
Okay.
there's a lot of work. There's a lot of ongoing work going on right now regarding this, which is wonderful. Not just with us, but with other people within the tri-communities. So.
Okay. Wow. How about priority area number 4? Financial stability.
I'll go ahead and start again. I have put a star by operating millage provides growth and stability, that we have flexibility now with our millage. We can use some of that to promote our other goals. And I also have put a star by water and sewer rates. There is a study underway with Prine and Newhoff that are doing a study right now on all the REUs. And I think it should be nearly completed. I don't know exactly what the status is, but I'm sure Dana and Joe can get together and see what the status is of that report.
Yep, I had a meeting with Dana I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago now. Currently, we are working to wrap that up. But working with Cal Light, we're trying to fully understand all the different various agreements on each part of the system, because it's like a quilt patchwork.
Mm-hmm.
So currently that's what we're going through, and that will help feed into our asset management plan and rates for maintaining the system.
Good. So you'll want to consider that plan when it's presented. So, okay, great. Any comments on the other ones? I could easily put 4.2 and 4.5 as the first 2 items on there. Others, John?
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that 4.6, the reduction of pension liability, that's been an ongoing goal and we've made giant steps, but I'd like to see it ranked a little bit higher, because that is something that I anticipate that'll be a part of every year's fiscal year budget planning, because we're trying to get up to the 60% coverage level, and we're getting closer. So it doesn't take a lot of effort and time. It's mostly stuff between Joe and the board and our MERS, the pension company. But yeah, I just think it should be ranked higher, and probably will stay on the list every year until we achieve where we want it to be.
I could list it as the third one behind the other two.
I'd be happy with that. I don't, like, I
Okay.
said, it's not, it doesn't take anywhere near the amount of time as the others, but it's certainly part of it, has been a part of our collective vision.
Yep, it would be. Okay. That goes to number 5 then. Growth and development.
Again, I'll go ahead and start. I think the Planning Commission has put together some subcommittees that are addressing some of these issues, and including the affordable housing. And they have just been put together, these subcommittees, and they're moving forward with that. So I guess this is really something that we want to say is our goal and objectives, but the Planning Commission is going to carry out the heavy lifting on some of these things.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, Cindy, because Larry, just to remind you, I'm the Township Board's representative on the Planning Commission, and I was going to bring that up too, because it was just last week. You know, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago? We recently had a joint board and Planning Commission meeting to start reviewing our master.
Oh, good.
And then the Planning Commission itself had its regular meeting last Monday, where we moved forward on these 3 subcommittees. And just so you're aware of them, the three committees that are being formed right now, one is focused on housing. One is focused on Blue Star Corridor and economic development. And the third one, it's kind of a broad title, but it's our rural character and a lot of things that feed into that. So that's, as Cindy said, that's in the works. The subcommittees will start meeting soon. And I think it's just really exciting and a plus that it's happening parallel to this section of the board's goals. And
Sure.
a lot of it will get generated. A lot of that work will be coming out of these
Okay.
committees and the Planning Commission. But that does, I still think it should be part of our goals, because anything they come up with, we have to endorse as well. But I think that's, as I said, I think it's a really strong indication of achievement that these things are happening at a parallel time.
So I can work on 5.1 and add the Planning Commission subcommittees, and that they're driving, and the board will receive reports periodically on their progress and consider any actions that the Planning Commission may recommend, type of thing. Good. Man, see, you guys are so far ahead of most every community that you've got your Planning Commission and your Township Board meeting, 3 subcommittees already, and you got an active liaison from the board to the Planning Commission. That's outstanding. John, you're what I would call the champion for that one then. And
that's actually what I was going to suggest.
Right. There were a couple others in there as well. So if 5.1 is number 1, how
Larry?
would you?
Larry, Stacy has a question.
Sorry, Stacy.
I kind of feel that 5.3 should be at the top of the list, honestly, because we can kind of keep coming across, like when a development decides to put in a development and we don't have the infrastructure, it's our fault. And we have to kind of, like Mr. Waskin was saying at the beginning of the meeting, this is a problem over and over again, so I would like to nip this right in the bud, so that this, when somebody wants a large development, they have to go through the proper channels and see what services are available, and we can help with that, or, go through it together, because it's just over and over again that it keeps happening, and it's hard to deal with.
Other thoughts? It can certainly be 1 or 2.
Well, I agree that master plan adherence should always be top of mind. It's just something that sometimes gets taken for granted. We, this board and our current planning commission, we're dealing with some issues that we inherited, certain things that were agreed to by a previous zoning administrator. And it takes time to understand the nuances and, get things right in the future and strengthen this adherence. I think it should be number one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be number one, and then the one we talked about with the affordable housing and the planning commission subcommittees would be number two.
Yes,
Okay, I see the heads go okay with that.
yeah,
And I actually think 5.2 as listed could be combined with 5.1. It's housing, it's economic, and it's,
Okay.
addressing our social needs. I don't think it needs to be split separately.
And I think that popped in my mind while I was putting them together.
Okay.
I thought, okay, you probably could put these all into one, so that would be great. Okay. Any thoughts on the other goals within that section?
I think those are longer term goals and objectives, especially the broadband internet service needs to be worked out. There's a lot of moving parts to that. The federal regulations, the local regulations, the state regulations, but I think we should continue to champion for that. It would attract business.
Yes.
And allow people to work from home. But I don't think that's going to be accomplished any sooner than 5 years
wow.
from now.
I will add to that, and this just happened recently, but the mayor of Douglas reached out to me asking if the township would be interested in working collaboratively with them on some internet and broadband opportunities. And I think obviously the answer is yes. I haven't had a chance to discuss this with Joe yet, and I don't know if Joe's talked to their manager, but it is something that we could at least do some of the initial groundwork to learn more about what opportunities are out there, whether it's grants. I know there's legislation pending in Lansing relative to this, and there's federal legislation. So like Cindy said, it's going to take time, but it should definitely be on our radar.
Are there any grants still available for providers to expand services? I know in one community I worked in, we worked with the provider to do that. In the other community, we ended up hardwiring every property to high-speed internet, T1 lines, so that every property in the village has the ability to connect to high-speed internet. Of course, that's a small area and you're much larger, it's harder to do. But the other one provided both wireless high-speed broadband, and then in their more dense populations, the grant allowed them to put the hard infrastructure in for those. So the whole 2 townships, 2+ townships and 1 city were in their service area, and they got it covered that way. But again, that was federal grants, rural utility services and all those EDA and stuff. So I just wondered if that was still available as an option. Okay.
So I have a question for everybody, and Larry. Should we consider, would it make sense to combine 5.5 and 5.6 and just do a little merging and editing, or they seem to me to be one and the same?
They certainly can be combined. And I'll work on that.
Okay.
I didn't know if what you thought of the idea of having each of you kind of be a champion in each of these areas to kind of work with Joe or and keep it moving and keep it noticeable so that at meetings you have reports on each of these priority areas, whether it might be have nothing new to report to, oh yeah, let me talk about, it's kind of what you do with your agendas now on some of the topics, but it might fall to each of the five of you to be a champion and to report on those. And Joe can add to those reports, but your team then really is as aware of everything as the manager is. Does that make sense at all?
This is Bigford, and this is only my impression. I don't know if it's true or not, but of these goals and action steps, it seems like the bulk of the work and going into them falls on the manager. So it seems to me like the manager would be the one giving the report. And I do think that organically, that champion concept happens. It's just strength-based. People kind of just lean into what they feel passionately about,
Okay.
know about. And I think we all do a really good job of connecting with each other and connecting with the manager prior to each and every meeting, to kind of, if we're like, hey, I don't know what's going on with that, I need to get up to speed. So I don't personally think that we need to name champions, but that's only my one opinion.
I agree with Abby. I think if we had more reports in our board meetings, it would be a little bit duplicative, especially when we get such a great manager report of what's going on and where we are. Joe has kind of followed Griffin's template for doing those reports. And if we have questions or concerns, I don't think any of us are shy that we won't go to Joe and say, how come you're working on John's project and not on mine?
Yeah.
I agree with Abby.
The thought about the champions is so you don't get a plan that sits on a shelf.
Right.
That way, but I don't think you guys have that issue of not moving forward on things.
I agree. We don't have that issue, and the communication is exemplary. I liked the concept of the champion because it implies some ownership and responsibility. It doesn't necessarily mean that champion is, filing reports and doing heavy lifting, but I just think it's a good measurement tool to know that things are on track. And to Cindy's point, yeah, I don't think all 5 champions areas are going to have updates every board meeting. They'll come up in conjunction with the manager, as we've all said. But still, I like that sense of ownership and responsibility. So I'd like us to consider it. And
comment kind of pop off for the board to consider. Coming from the outside point of view, I saw that there were 5 and I was like, oh, there's 5 of you. I thought you did that on purpose. So I was like, oh, okay.
It's organic.
Yeah, well, but a possible way that you could look at it is, like Abby said, a lot of these things are a lot of management and staff who will do all the, heavy lifting, so the board can then have information to discuss on a direction for the policy. But it could be beneficial with what John mentioned if everybody picks one of the priority areas to remind the other members, hey, by the way, when you're at setting your goals for that year or that policy, we still have these other things. So, not just one area is taking, everyone's talking about this one thing and forgets all the other ones. I don't know, it's just a thought thing or comment.
For me, I was thinking some of what I'm doing falls in different areas. So for me, it might be kind of difficult. For example, roads is in one area. That's a committee I'm on. And then the bike trail is another area. And there was one other, and I'm passionate about the housing issue. So for me, it would be a little difficult to do that.
Sounds like it might just add complication and those type of.
For me, it would, but.
Right.
And for John, it sounds like all things related to through the planning commission. John is serving
Right.
as champion already.
Mhm.
Okay, I can take
Although
that out.
Although I wouldn't mind seeing a champion on the millage and the, the fiscal side, but maybe it's not necessary, but I liked it.
I like the idea, but then I started realizing I'm kind of scattered throughout
Well, I
the
think
goals.
we all are, but
Yeah.
that's not, it doesn't mean you're not active. It's just
Right.
some ownership on the reporting and status structure.
Great.
It could help Joe with his, the red, green, and yellow grid, that kind of thing. It's just
Yeah.
Great. This is a lot of good work, and having everybody together in this format is really good. I will work on this the rest of today and tonight and try to get this back to you yet tomorrow so that you have time to take a look at it. As I understand it, I will suggest a mission statement, but you're all going to suggest a mission statement as well and circulate that so that on the meeting on the 10th, you'll be able to have that for your consideration as an adoption action item or not. And if I get anything wrong from what we talked about today, and my notes and cryptic, and I think I can still read my writing, if I get anything wrong in that, let me know so I can get that immediately corrected so that you have a final document that you're able to receive on the vision report from the visioning exercise, and you have a document you can adopt as a strategic action plan. You'll still need to, because I don't think we have a consensus whether this is a 2-year or a 3-year or a 1-year plan, but it seemed like you liked Joe's idea that adopt it all. And as you develop your budget priorities, you'll indicate which of those are priorities for 2021 and the others will still be there. And then when you update this plan annually or review it annually, you'll do all your updates from there. Did I understand that correctly? I see Cindy's head was nodding there, so okay.
Yeah, I would like to see it called a multi-year strategic plan, not a 2-year or a 3-year, but just multi-year.
Okay.
We can check them off as we make accomplishments and continue with the things that we haven't finished from last year yet as well. So that's my 2 cents worth.
And then
I
each
like
year.
It keeps it fluid. You know what I mean? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I like that idea. Yeah. Go ahead,
And then the only things that might, your urgent and timely issues that develop during the year would then be included at the annual review or added that way as well. So it becomes a living document, ongoing living document, not a dead end document. Terrific. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you all. I thought it would be about 2 hours, and
How'd we do?
A little shorter than that. So great.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you.
We're good.
Good. So that is the direction we're going to take on the strategic action plan and the vision report. And if nobody has any more comments on that, I would like to go ahead and open it up to public comments.
I have one question, Cindy.
Yes.
Just to make sure I have things ready for our next meeting. and then with Larry. So for the packet, everyone would like this to be on the agenda for next week, Wednesday, to approve with a final draft.
To approve or to table if we have major concerns, but I think we're all kind of on the same page.
Okay, I just want to make sure I have that note clarified. All right, thank you.
Yeah, we realize time is of the essence because of the budget process. Correct?
Yep, I would like to get that
Yeah.
rolling for you all.
Okay, now let's open it up to public comment. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address the board with any topic of any kind you would like to make? Raise your hand or make yourself heard and we'll recognize you. I'm not seeing anybody from the public, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Marcy. I will motion to adjourn, that we adjourn the February 2nd meeting at 12:36 according to my watch.
That matches my atomic clock. Is there a support?
Okay.
This is big.
This is all, oh, sorry. Aldrich, I'll support.
Pick one.
Okay. We have a motion by Marcy, supported by Aldrich to adjourn. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Being a Zoom meeting, we roll call everything. Marcy,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Bickford,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
and Osmond, yes. Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned.
Great
Thank
meeting,
you.
everyone.
Good
Thank
job,
Good
guys.
meeting.
Good,
Got a
Dwayne.
lot done.
Larry.
Good discussion. Good
Mhm.
discussion.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.